Check, good. So I'm Max Ceron, Max Ceron, CWB Association Welding Podcast. Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding Podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and we're here once again with another fantastic Canadian story. And today's story has a very special significance in our calendar because we're trying to align with Black History Month, or African/Caribbean History Month, which is very important to so many people here in Canada. And today's guest, we have Fredrick Crawley coming to us from East Preston out in Nova Scotia. Fred, how are you doing?
Good, Max. Good to be here. Just chilling out, ready to get going.
Ready to blab?
Yes, ready to blab. Yes, sir.
So, Fred, you're a Red Seal Welder, right?
Yes, Red Seal. It'll be 10 years this summer that I'll have my Red Seal.
Wow, 10 years. You've been doing this a long time then. You're probably
Yes.
about my age then, although you look way younger. What are you, late 30s, early 40s? Where are you?
Yep, early 40s. You got it. 42 years old.
Oh, I'm 46. You look like at least 15 years younger than me, though. So I
Yeah,
don't know. You
I
got
get
some
it all the
magic going
time.
on.
It's kind of bad when you go in the liquor store and they ID you, and then they look at your ID and they're like, "Whoa." Right?
Man, I haven't been ID'd since I was like 9 years old.
Wow, really? Yeah, it's that beard, Max. It's that beard you got going
I
on.
Not gonna lie. If you're ever in my house here in Saskatchewan, I'll pull out the old photo album, and I got a picture of me in grade 6, I think, or 7, with a little mustache. I was already growing facial hair.
Absolutely. I believe it. I believe it.
All right,
Yes.
so Fred, let's talk about a little bit about who you are, and I think we're gonna touch on some key points here that I found even really interesting in in your story when we talked a little bit the other day. So you were born and raised there in Nova Scotia, in Nova Scotia, correct?
Absolutely. Born and raised.
So how many generations has your family been in that area?
So in East Preston, we're my daughter. So I'm sixth generation. My daughter is seventh generation of being in Halifax in Nova Scotia. So yeah, seven
Yeah.
generations,
So
right?
I'm one. I
You're
wasn't I wasn't born here, so I'm the first over.
wow. Yeah, so it's seven times over that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My
And
grandmother's grandmother was born here, right?
that is it. That it's inspiring because you know what? And I'm gonna say this because I think it's important for all the listeners, is that, and it happened to me. I made the same mistake.
Mm,
Is that when I think of immigrants, I think of people like me who just got here.
absolutely.
And we tend to think of immigrants as like you just got off the plane, or you just crossed the border, or you just arrived, or you
Hmm.
think of like the normal frustrations that sometimes we have with immigrants. And you and I maybe both can have those frustrations. We'll be like, your English isn't that good, or why
Hmm.
can't you write well, or I can't
Hmm.
understand you, and
Hmm.
those normal frustrations. So when I reached out to you, Frederick, to look at trying to do something special for Black History Month, and I got your name because of the East Preston Empowerment Academy, which we're going to talk about later.
Hmm.
They said that here's a Black individual who's a Red Seal welder, and he's crushing it, and he's a great guy to talk to. When
Hmm.
I reached out to you, I thought, okay, I want to get your immigrant story. And
Hmm.
I remember I asked you that, and you're like,
Yeah.
man, I've been here like 7 generations. And I was like, pen drop,
Yes.
like, right? And that
Yes.
that was very important for me. And you know why?
Why?
Because people need to know that other cultures have been here since the start. Like, since that white man first got here, they
Absolutely.
weren't alone. They weren't
Abs-
alone.
no, no, they weren't alone, and that's a big misconception that people fall
Hmm.
into. They don't think, or they're naive, or I could say ignorant to the fact that other people were here before and during, and like you said,
Hmm.
came with. You know,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's very very important, and it's very significant.
It's powerful, man. It's
Absolutely.
powerful because you know what? I can't say to you, go back to where you're from. Like nobody can say that to you because you can look them dead in the eye and be like, I was here way before you were. Like
Yeah.
odds are this is my country right from day one. If you want to talk about, colonialism and coming here and taking over, and you have the Europeans showing up and saying this is ours.
Hmm.
Well, what do you mean by ours? Because
Right.
there's a lot of other people involved as well,
Absolutely.
let alone taking it away from the indigenous, which is not really a thing. You can't take a country or take
Exactly.
land.
That
But
people were there already when you got there. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, you
So
don't. If I walk into my neighbor's house and lie down on his couch and say it's mine, I don't I
that's a
don't
lot of
think that's
work.
it's not going to work out very well,
No,
man.
no. So yeah, I think like you said, it's powerful, and a lot of people don't know. You know, they don't
Mhm.
know, and then you tell them, and it's mind blowing. You know, it is. I've had other people say the same thing to me. You know.
So then, in terms of your family story, how important is that conversation? Like, are you a little kid and your mom and dad are like, hey, look, Frederick, we're Canadian. We're as Canadian as maple syrup because we've been here 400 years. Like, we've been here since the start, since the first white man talked to the first indigenous people on these lands. We were
Mhm.
right here beside them. You
Yeah.
know, did that happen in your family? Is this something that you guys communicate to each other?
Yeah. In a sense, yeah. My mom and dad told me stories about my grandparents and their grandparents that they knew, right? So I knew that we didn't just come here, we were here for multiple generations, right?
Mhm.
But it wasn't until later on that I started really digging in, like going through school and digging in and finding out exactly how far it went back. The more technology came
Mhm.
about, the more we learned, the more we knew. So, yeah, that was a conversation we had. Absolutely.
So how did you figure that out? Like I guess being in Canada, you'll have records. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
you'll have birth certificates and so and so. So like, how far back were you able to figure out? Did it go back into the states? Because there was like the libertarian movement up into Canada. There was the Underground Railroad. Like, are we
Right.
going that far back?
Well, it's funny you say that because the Underground Railroad, right? That network didn't really come to Lower Canada. It was more Upper Canada, like
Hmm.
Ontario and those places. Like the Nova Scotia, the black people coming to Nova Scotia came in like four waves, right? So it all the way back to 1604 is when the first black planters came to Nova Scotia, and
Okay.
they came with the New England planters. So, like you said, they came together, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And they uh, they started planting in like the Annapolis Valley, and that still goes on today. Like uh, there's a lot of foreigners like Jamaicans that come. They just come here to farm, and I just found that out that the black planters were the first ones to come here, and it was in 1604. So that was the first wave, right?
Hmm.
So there's four waves. So the second wave uh, was the loyalists, the black loyalists, which that's where
Your
my
family
dad,
came in.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, one side of my family, like my
Hmm.
dad's family, you know what I mean? That's where the
Yeah.
Crawley name comes from because it's an old English name, right?
Hmm.
But the loyalists who fought for the British came, uh, and they came in 1783, right? So that
Okay.
was the second wave. And a lot of people are finding out because there's I'm not sure if you're familiar with the movie the Book of Negroes.
Yes, I have it. Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah, my
They
wife
made a
has
movie
got
out of it as well. Yeah.
yeah. So that Book of Negroes is actually a ledger uh, des- describing all
Hmm.
the loyalists that came to uh, to Nova Scotia from I think they left from New York somewhere, but it was all the loyalists, black loyalists, white loyalists, and they all came together. And the Book of Negroes is actually a ledger, so they would know the description and the names of the people who came over. And
Mm.
going back and doing that research, I could actually find out exactly when my
Your dad's
ancestors
side.
came.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So how
So
did that feel to see you like your last name in that list? Being like, hey, that's my family.
yeah, it's huge. It's huge. It was enlightening. It was empowering. It just gives you a sense of being like where you come from, right? You know
Hmm.
how you came here. It was gratifying and satisfying, I would say. You know?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, when so I'm from Chile. I'm from South America, and we came here because of a war. There was a war. We were refugees, right?
Hmm.
I was able to go back, and since the war ended, they created a museum of human rights in in Chile, in Santiago, and there's a big section, like most of the museums actually about like what went down in the war. And I
Hmm.
went back, and they have ledgers there of the people that were kept in prisons and tortured, and we
Wow.
found our family's name and my dad and my uncle and stuff like that.
Really?
And I remember like it hit me because it's like
Yeah.
I forget that's what my family went through. I forget because
Mm.
I live in Canada. Like I mean, this place is a dream, right?
Yeah, it is a dream.
Even even as bad as it gets here, as
Mhm.
bad as it gets, and then people will complain till they're blue in the face. They
Yeah,
don't know what they're talking about, man. It's
exactly.
it's bad in other places.
Yeah,
People
this
suffer.
is one of the best countries in the world, really and truly.
Absolutely.
And I'm blessed that I was born here, and I don't take that for granted either. I don't take it lightly, you know. So
Hmm.
yeah, we're truly fortunate people to be here, right?
So then, after the second wave, what was the third wave?
So the
Do you
third
know?
wave, yeah, the third wave is like the Jamaican Maroons, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
Maroons came in 1796, right? And so they fought back and freed themselves in Jamaica, right? And
Hmm.
went to the hills, and that's where they got the name Maroons from, right? But the colonizers wouldn't. They tried and tried for years to get these guys, but they could never get them. They go up, they're warrior type people, right?
Hmm.
So when they go up in the mountains, they'd end up dying, or the crew they sent up didn't come back, right? So yeah, they got
You're only
fed
going
up.
to try that a few times.
Exactly. So they got fed up, and they actually, I don't know how they went about it, but they convinced them to come to Nova Scotia, right? So the Maroons, they got them together, and a lot of them came over to Nova Scotia. They sent them to Nova Scotia, right? So they came here, and that's a part of my mother's side of her family, right?
Okay, so your mom's more of a Caribbean, the slaves that were left behind in the Caribbean
Exactly.
descent area. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, and during those two waves to Nova Scotia, like they were promised stuff, like the loyalists were promised things, and
Hmm.
they got some, but not all. You know how that goes.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't always come through. So a lot of them, some of them left and went to Sierra Leone,
Okay.
through some communications with someone
Hmm.
here and there, and they ended up going there and creating the capital city, Freetown, Sierra Leone.
Hmm.
So there's a big history of Sierra Leone and the people
Nova Scotia.
in Nova Scotia as well, and Jamaica. So it's a big connection. And I was in Toronto for a few years, and every time someone looked at me, they would say, "Oh, you're Jamaican." I don't care. You're from Nova Scotia, but you're Jamaican. And they just know that Jamaica and Nova Scotia are connected. And
Yeah.
the the people down in Jamaica know a lot about here. So, and the people in Sierra Leone. So it's a it's a connection. And that's another great thing about it. To realize and find out that history. It's
So in your travels of Canada, just as a person or as a welder,
Mhm.
would you say that there is a good representation of black people in your community? Like, is there a lot of black people in your area compared to, say, Toronto? Or I don't know if you've ever been out west, but I feel
Yeah,
like we're not very well represented in terms of black color out here.
yeah. No, I've been to every province in Canada except for Newfoundland and BC. You
Hmm.
know, um, but no, the community that I live in, East Preston, the majority is is black people. This is the
Hmm.
oldest. This is one of the oldest communities in Canada, really.
Hmm.
Probably is. And matter of fact, there's 52 historic black communities in Nova Scotia, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, they might not all be huge communities, but there's 52 historic black communities all over Nova
They can
Scotia.
all trace their bloodlines going way back.
Right. And their last name really tells you. Like, even if you move to the city,
Hmm.
nowadays, a lot of people are moving to city in Halifax, but you could tell by the last name of the person, like where about in the province they're from, just from their last name. If I say,
Hmm.
oh, my mom's a Brooks, they know that the Brookses are from East Preston, you know, and,
Hmm.
and there's Langford. So then the Langford, they know that they're from Weymouth, right? It's
Hmm.
just, yeah, it's just, that's how, that's
That's
how
awesome.
connected. Yeah.
And you only get that type of community mindset through history. Like a
Absolutely.
place has got to be around a long time for it to get that kind of reputation or
Absolutely.
connections. Like I think sometimes out in the West, we don't have that type of history because the West got conquered, colonialized way later down the
Hmm.
line. You know,
Yeah. Hmm.
so like I mean, people like Regina is in the 1800s. I mean, by the 1800s, Canada and the East had already been around for like 400 years, 300 years.
Yes.
Even if it wasn't officially Canada, there were still traders and stuff going on, right? So
Absolutely.
so we're kind of late to the game in the West.
Hmm.
So I don't know if we have that kind of historical connection. Some of the groups do, but they're all Ukrainian or Polish or German. You know, they all
Hmm.
have like those mindsets, and for the most part, lots of them came with money, with family to get land and to get to work,
Hmm.
which is, you know, I'm not saying it was easy, but probably a lot harder to be a slave of a British guy coming over to
Hmm.
Canada to start over. That's probably a way harder path, you
Absolutely.
know?
Yeah, definitely a more difficult path. And
Mhm,
I kind of agree with you. Yeah, there's not really many black people in or people of color in
mhm.
West region. There is, but yeah, like you said,
It's
it's
growing now. I think
yeah.
it's growing now, but I think from the beginning of Canada, it wasn't as well represented as the East was. And like you said, it's just makes sense. Just logistically, the water's there, the boats are there,
Hmm.
travel to Europe and Africa and the
Hmm.
Caribbean, that's all there, right?
Hmm.
So,
But the most diverse uh, province probably is Ontario, just
mhm,
because the like a lot of people from the West Indies came there, and like I said, after the planters and those waves came in. Then the Underground Railroad was coming through too, but it
mhm.
stayed more Upper Canada. That's what I learned more, that it was more Upper Canada, and it didn't really hit like the Maritimes, like
Yeah.
until later. Like the people may have traveled down from there, but more of the Underground Railroad came through like the Ontario region. You
Man,
know,
I could talk about this all of I love history. I love
absolutely.
learning about this stuff.
Yeah, I'm still learning. I learn every day.
Yeah.
I've I grasp that now, and I look forward to it. I want to be knowledgeable about things, right?
So in your area, you know, as a majority black community,
Mm.
do you feel that you get along well with the rest of the community? Is there issues between East Preston as a black community and say other areas of your of the I don't know the names of the areas around there in the Halifax area? Is there issues like there is like I mean I can only relate in terms of Saskatchewan and our indigenous populations where there is issues. Like I mean we had a man shoot an indigenous man a couple years ago here for
Mm-hmm.
trespassing, and there's those kind of fights and stuff going on, and it's ugly stuff. Like it's ugly stuff. Do
Yeah,
you guys have that
absolutely.
in your communities there? Do you have issues like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We do. 100%. We have those type of issues. See, so the community I'm from is called Preston, right? And there's like East Preston, and then there's North Preston, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we have conflicts between each other, but nothing major. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the same type of stuff. Like we just had a report done with the Halifax PD, and it was like a black person in this city was 6 times more likely to be pulled over than someone who was white, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it was just crazy because per capita, like we're 3% of the population in
Yeah.
Halifax. Black people are
Yeah.
3% of the population. So they were just they were just pulling people over, you know?
Yeah,
They, were-
yeah.
they were yeah, they were just uh
Just
profile.
flexing.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were profiling, and it was actually called street checks. It was a thing that they were
Hmm.
just randomly pulling. They could just randomly pull you over and ask you for your ID, like, you know, or pull
Yeah,
you
yeah,
over, and that all got. So now that's illegal. They can't do that anymore
yeah. But
because
they
it's
still do.
reported. Oh yeah, they still do. They still do. Absolutely, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it just yeah. So things like that happen a
Yeah,
lot.
they do. And it's tough to see that happen. And as a society, we want to eliminate these things from happening, but we have to everyone needs to accept that it's a reality. Because what
Absolutely.
happens is I'll talk to people about some of the things that I've been through as a person of color, and I learned English. It's my second language, so there was some lean lean times,
Yes,
and people sometimes don't believe me. And
right.
it's like, what do you mean you don't believe me?
Yeah.
Or they're like, really? That happened? It's like, this shouldn't shock you. Like,
Yeah.
don't open your eyes, because we're
Yeah.
not going to make anything better unless we accept that like some stuff is rotten. Like we got to fix
Absolutely.
it, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's true, you know, and I find that a lot. People they don't want to know, or they look the other way, and then when they're confronted with it, it's like, really? It's like, come on, man, you got to stop living under a rock, and you know what I mean, and like
Absolutely, yeah,
really think about what's going on in life. Life is too short to get caught up in stuff like that. You know,
yeah.
you have to be real with yourself at some point in
Well,
time.
and like you don't want to be scared. Like, man, one time I got pulled over because the plates expired on my car, and I got like tossed on the ground, kneed in the back, handcuffed, put in a cop car, taken downtown, held for like 6 hours for
Wow.
having the plates expired on my car. Now, you tell me someone you know who had that happen to them
Yeah.
for the plates. I mean, I got buddies. They're like, "Oh, you got plates? Okay, yeah, here's a ticket. Go home." They're not
Well,
getting dragged around on the
no,
pavement for half an hour. Like,
no, no, not at all. And I'll tell you one story. I don't know if you know Kirk Johnson, the boxer.
okay,
He was,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, he was a Olympic
Canadian,
champion, Canadian
Canadian
champ.
champ for years. Yeah.
Yeah, Olympic champion. He almost won the heavyweight title.
Hmm.
But yeah, he trained in Texas. He'd come home every summer. He had a Mustang 5.0 with Texas plates on it. He said he got pulled over like 20 times in 1 month. And the very last time he got pulled over, they took his car and told him his insurance was no good. And they took his car and impounded it, right? And he ended up getting a settlement from them, from the
Sued them good.
police. He sued them, yeah, and he won, you know,
Hmm.
because yeah, he said at first they were just pulling him over. Hey, champ, how you doing? Blah blah blah, and he was just like, okay. After a few times, he was like, this is getting weird now. And then some I guess a random cop pulled him over and said, yeah, listen, these plates are no good. This insurance is no good here. This is a fake insurance card or something like that. And yeah, they took his car. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
ridiculous. Yeah.
yeah, it is. And this guy is he almost was the heavyweight champion of the like. I just don't get it, you know?
Well, it's an issue that's everywhere, and whether it's the black community, people of color in general, Black History Month. Some people are like, oh yeah, so we got Black History Month, then we have Indigenous Awareness Month, and when is it going to end? Never, never
No,
going to
it's
end. We
never
need
gonna.
these things. It's important. Like, I
Absolutely.
mean, I'm Latino. Our There is such a thing as Latino, time, but that's
Yeah,
not even on anyone's calendar right now. Like,
it's
we're
it
way down
should
the list.
it should be. It is coming, and it's coming, and it's
It,
needed.
it, I hope so, because like
Absolutely.
often my culture is like, oh yeah, just kind of whatever.
Mhm,
But back to you.
mhm.
Actually, this is actually a perfect time to take a break for a commercial. Man, it's already been 25 minutes. Can you believe that?
Wow, time is
We-
flying.
yeah, we're just flying here. All right, so we're gonna take a quick break from our sponsors. We're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about Frederick's welding journey and kind of some of the things that's been going on there. And I want to talk about the EPA, which I think is a crazy, awesome program that's going on. So don't go anywhere, everyone that's tuning in. We got Frederick Crawley here, and we'll be right back after these messages. And we're back here on the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron, and we have Frederick Crawley coming in to us from East Preston,
Yes.
Nova Scotia. And Fred, how you doing? You having fun?
Good. Yeah, I'm enjoying it, Max. This has been a great experience. I'm super happy you guys reached out, and I'm just happy to be here. Happy
Well, I'm
to.
going to be out there in May for that the apprenticeship forum, Canadian Apprenticeship Forum
Yep.
conference. So I'm sure we're going to have to meet up out there.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be at that conference too. I just got an email. We're going to have a discussion panel going on there, so I'll be
Awesome,
there.
man.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
speaking one of the days too, but I'm not sure which day I'm speaking. So
Really.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we'll see.
I'll
We'll
make
see what's
sure.
going on.
It'll be great.
You'll be speaking in other the other stage, and I'll be on one stage. We could yell at each other, be like, yeah,
Right? Awesome. Be good to see you in person. So I'm looking
yeah, yeah. I'm a lot shorter, so don't get your hopes up. Right?
forward. Okay.
The camera makes me look tall, so
Yeah.
I've seen other people be like, "Man, you're like 5 feet tall." I was like, "Yeah, never mind. It's my race is short. Just leave us alone."
Right?
All right, so we were talking about your history of like a deep, strong history in Eastern Canada,
Yes, sir.
but that does not afford you protection. You are still the subject of the same racism that anybody, whether they showed up yesterday or 400 years ago. That doesn't,
Absolutely.
which is sad because
Hmm.
you think you would have earned your right to be a black East Coaster because you've been there since the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah,
You
you
know
would
what
think.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, Max. I do.
So then, for you coming out of high school, and in your area, what, how did you get into welding? What was it about welding that made you go down that path, or did you have something else that you tried first? What was young Frederick doing?
Well, growing up, my dad was a social worker, right? So he went to university, did all that, and he worked for the government, right? So he uh he did his thing, and when I was coming up, my uncles were, they just work with their hands. They build stuff, build houses. My uncle had a
Hmm.
mill, and one of my other uncles was a boiler maker. So I just took an interest in welding because I was working with him. I
Hmm.
was going to go to school to be a social worker too, and then my dad was like, well, you should try to get a trade first, right? Because a trade is something they can't take from you. And he's like,
Hmm.
he got pushed out early out of um, community services and stuff like that. So he encouraged me to get a trade, right?
Hmm.
So I chose welding because I had an uncle who was showing me how to do some welding. And he was also showing me his pay stubs. And he he would go away for 2 weeks and come back with $4,000 or $5,000 paychecks. And I was like, wow, right?
Hmm.
So, and he would talk to me about the unions and all that stuff and just traveling and seeing and meeting different people. So
Hmm.
that's why I kind of went that way, right?
And so, did you sign up for welding right after high school finished?
No, I took like a year and a half off. I
Hmm.
traveled. I went to Toronto for a while, and yeah, then when I came back, I was like, okay, Fred, you got to do something, you know.
Hmm.
So then I went into welding. After that, took a 2-year program, NSCC, and
Who
finished
was your
that
teacher there at NACC?
at NSCC.
Yeah.
My teacher's name was Mr. Nickerson. Was for my first year teacher,
Hmm.
and the second year teacher was Steve Stewart. Steve Stewart. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I think I know both those guys. I know a few guys from out there. Good
Okay.
people out there at NCC. Yeah, it's a nice
There is
college
good
too.
people. It is a great college. It was also Gerard Grote and a few other people as
Hmm.
well, that helped through that journey. Right. And so after
And
that, I took, oh, go ahead.
so how did you like the program? 2 years is a long time to be in school.
2 years is a long time to be in school, but I enjoyed it. I mean, I met a lot of different people, and it was a long time, but it just didn't feel like that at the time. I mean, time was going by quick. You got two
You're busy.
semesters. Yeah, you're busy. If you really wanted to learn
Hmm.
how to weld, and it went by quick,
Hmm.
s- in my opinion.
And
You
how
know.
did you do? Were you a good student?
Yeah, I was a great student. I mean, I never failed anything. I took it really interest in it, and the first year it's a little bit of dragging on, but as it progressed, I got it more into it.
Hmm.
And by the end of it, yeah, I was one of the ones that stuck it out. And
And how represented was your class in terms of color? What if you like the students? It's probably like 15 to 20 students a class or somewhere in
yeah,
there.
yeah,
How was it?
it was just me, and then there was one other girl in the class, but everybody was white. It was just I was
Hmm.
the only person of color in the class, right?
And that's still a very strong representation. In
Hmm.
my almost 8 years of teaching at the college, I mean, the vast majority are white. I think women are coming in more than
Yes,
people of color.
yeah, yeah,
People of
absolutely.
color are still not very well represented for the trades coming in. And I think a lot of it's cultural. And I mean, I may be painting that with a very broad
Wide
brush,
brush, but I
but
understand what you mean.
you know what I mean? Because our
Yeah,
parents are like, we came to this country not to be like that, go to university, get an
yeah,
easy job. It's kind of like
absolutely.
this idea, like,
Yeah.
my dad was a Boilermaker, and he
Oh,
was all
really?
like, you don't want to get your hands dirty. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
want to go work in a nice, clean job. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, man, I do want to get my hands dirty.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
enjoy it. I don't, it's I perfected it now to whereas it's easy for me. It wasn't in the beginning, but
Hmm.
years go on that I can pretty much adapt to most situations that I get put in. Right.
Did you have any trouble finding work once you finished your course? You did well in the program. Was it tough to get that first job?
Um, tell you the truth, I had it in my mind that I was gonna leave when I got a job because I went and did my first placement in year one,
Hmm.
and I walked into this shop and it was not what I expected at all. It was like
Hmm.
it was this big jig with this big I don't know, it was some kind of boiler or something. It wasn't a boiler, but it was just a big
Some type
structure.
of tank or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
and everybody was around welding. No one was wearing no PPE. They said, "Yep, go in there and start welding." And people were striking arcs all over the place. I was like, "Wow, this is what welding's gonna be all about," And it just, I was, yeah. So I was like, man, and it
I don't
was
like this
just,
so much.
yeah, I didn't really like it that much. But then I went back to school and there was a shop out here, a small shop in the community that
Hmm.
a guy owned, a white guy. He owned it,
Hmm.
and I went to him and said, "Hey, I want to do my work term here." So, and he told me that he worked in the big shops and he didn't like it. He couldn't do it. It was just too many guys, and they had different attitudes, and so he started his own place, right?
Hmm.
So we were talking, and then I decided that I was gonna go away, right?
Hmm.
And right? And so I went to Ontario, and I never had a problem finding a job. As soon as I got there, boom, I applied and I got a job right away, right?
Yeah. Did you ever do any union work, or did you always stay just on the private side?
I did union work when I came back to Nova Scotia. I was with the local 56 plumbers and
Hmm.
pipe fitters union. So yeah, I did quite a bit of work with them over the years.
So it sounds like you got your pipe tickets too.
Mhm.
What tickets do you got? I'm just curious.
Um, I got four position flux core stick. I got a TIG stainless steel and 6G pipe ticket.
The F3, F4.
Yes, the F3,
Yeah.
F4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
So
can kind of go anywhere now.
yeah, I could go. I'm even thinking about maybe going when things pick back up, maybe coming out west in the
Oh yeah.
future, right? You
Well,
know?
things are picked up right now. Like, I mean, things are real busy out here in the West. We're looking for welders like crazy.
Oh,
I
wow.
also just got a call that they're looking for welders. You in the shipbuilding? I know a lot of companies looking for welders in the shipbuilding. There's one in Southern Ontario that just called me up, being like, "Man, we need work like crazy. We need workers."
Wow. Well, that's
So,
good to know, Max. That's good to know. I can network to you and just see where the work is if the if that's the case, right?
well, that's what the association's all about, man. Is just connecting companies to people. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we get a lot of information that comes in, and we just share it out and be like, "Hey, everyone, good luck. We're doing the best we can." So.
Awesome. Awesome. That's good to know. That's great to
So
know.
when we were having our conversations earlier, like we talked about, a mentor and how important it can be to have a mentor that looks like you. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And it's
Mhm.
intelligence is good and good, all those things are great, but just, looking, being the same race, same gender, these things kind of create a connection that is different, a little bit deeper, right?
Hmm.
And you know, your school, all your instructors were white. Your first few jobs, everyone was white. And then you told me that you had one great mentor who was the first black person you worked for, which
Hmm.
was really eye-opening for you. So what was that like? How did that happen, and how did that play out?
Okay, so it was the job that I went for in Ontario, right? So I started through a temp agency because that's how they hire you through to this
Mm-hmm.
company, right? So I went through the temp agency, and yeah, when I first started, the foreman was his name was Mike. He was from Antigua, right? But he looked just like me, like he was a black man, he was a
Mm-hmm.
welder. He was a welder and before he got to that position, and he just took
Mm-hmm.
a liking to me out of the blue. And I took a liking to him. He knew I was from Nova Scotia, you know.
Yeah.
He just took a liking to me, and it was I never experienced having a boss like that, someone that would come to you, talk to you, how you doing, wave, like wanting to know about my family and the history, where I
Mm-hmm.
come from, and it just was empowering to me to see him in that position and saying to me that it made me feel comfortable for one,
Mm-hmm.
right? He wouldn't try to put anything over my head or anything like that. And yeah, it was easy to talk to him. It was like, talking to my uncle or something. It wasn't I didn't feel awkward or anything like
Mm-hmm.
anywhere else, just being the only person there of color, right? But in this workplace, the majority of the people were people of color,
Mm-hmm.
people from South America, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people from the West Indies,
Mm-hmm.
Europe, you know, China, and it was Asia, it was nothing like that I ever experienced before, and I loved it. I loved it. I learned so much at that job. They gave me so much chances to learn, and I just soaked it all in because it was a perfect learning environment for me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's like that's how you excel at stuff. If you're put in that perfect working environment or learning environment where you feel comfortable, you're able to soak everything in, and that's what I did.
It's been proven scientifically that the human brain does not learn if it's under stress.
Hmm.
It's just it goes into a different mode, different
Hmm.
chemicals get released, different things happen inside your brain that when you're under stress, all you're thinking about is survival, and
Yes.
you're not thinking about learning or thinking ahead.
Hmm.
So, and I talked about this on my podcast with a few other people that have had crazy stories about, their lives. And it isn't until you can find somewhere, even if it's the smallest space ever, but at
Hmm.
some point in your life, you got to find a place where you're comfortable, and then
Hmm.
all of a sudden you can finally start to let your brain like work, open up a little bit.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened to me, Max. Exactly what happened to me. I my brain was opened up. I just took everything in and I really learned the craft and I honed it, right? For
Hmm.
those 5 years that I was there, I honed it. And after that I could do any welding. It didn't matter, you could
Hmm.
put me in a different atmosphere. I still have the confidence now in myself. I'm confident in my abilities now. So now no one can really on the surface try to take that from me, right? It's
Yeah.
gonna
And
take it's gonna take me being by myself and you steadily digging at, you know, and that's what they
yeah,
do, you know, to break you down, right?
that's
But
what they got to do, because once
yeah,
you're confident with your own skill as a tradesperson, you're
mm,
set for life.
yeah,
If you
absolutely,
really want to be, you're set for life, because no one can take that from you. Like, I mean, we've had this conversation with my friends, especially during COVID. It's funny, at the beginning of COVID, like 2 years ago, people be like, "Who's on your pandemic crew?" Like,
yeah,
did you have that
yeah,
talk with your friends? Like, what if the world goes to hell and everything
yeah,
starts on fire and there's comets calling, falling, and you can
yeah,
only like run away into the woods with like five people?
yeah,
Which five people would you pick? And people would always ask me, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm good by myself. Like, I mean,
right,
I'm
yeah,
100% confident I can deal with whatever that happens. Like,
absolutely. I agree. I agree. That's confidence, That's confidence.
I can
And
I can find food. I can get water. I can
yeah,
weld. I can build. I can do
exactly.
whatever I need to. Like, whatever. Like,
I'll survive. I'll
I'll
survive.
survive. Yeah.
No matter what. I mean, my ancestors did it. There's no excuse for me.
Hmm.
I I I, I want to be honorable. to
Hmm.
to
To the
their
legacy.
yeah, to the legacy, absolutely. And I'm gonna honor that, and that's why I'm out here doing what I'm doing, trying to give back to the community and networking with people like you. It's a beautiful thing. This is what I want to do, right?
Hmm. Now, in you had that job for 5 years.
Mhm.
What happened? Sounded like it was perfect.
It
What?
was perfect. What happened was the recession. The recession is what happened.
Yeah.
This place, Samina SCI Systems, we're building these UG tanks and RG tanks. This place had been in Scarborough for 30 years.
Hmm.
30 years, right? The recession hit and they moved the whole plant to Mexico.
Ouch. Oh
Yeah.
man.
The whole plant to Mexico. And yeah, they had to pay a lot of people severance pays. I mean, like big money.
Did
Big
anybody
money.
go with them to Mexico?
I think a few people did, yeah. A few
You
people
should have
did.
gone to Mexico.
I know, right? But I had a young daughter and
Yeah, no, family
I
changes
had,
everything.
yeah, I had like a 12-month-old baby. I wasn't going anywhere, right? Well, I came back, there'd be nothing there, right? The wife
Yeah,
been
yeah.
like, no, maybe I could have, but I wasn't ready for that.
It wasn't on the radar, yeah.
No, it
So
wasn't on.
so then where'd you go? What happened then?
Well, I bounced around a few jobs there up there. I ended up working at another pipe shop where I welded a little bit, but then we just decided to come back home.
Hmm.
It was kind of hard being away from family, like mothers and stuff, people that you really needed. Like I have family in Ontario too, but it wasn't the same, right? As having like your mother or my wife's mother there. So
Are
we come.
you are you firstborn? Are you the oldest boy?
No, I have an older brother, Avery.
You have an older brother.
Yeah, I'm the middle of the boys. I have
Oh,
so it's Avery, then it's me, and I have a younger brother, Leon, right?
so you're the forgotten middle child?
Forgotten middle child, birthday in December, birthday December 12th. Man, it was brutal. Mom would be always like, those guys be having birthday parties, and I'd be, well, Christmas is right around the corner every year. I think I had one birthday party. It was the best thing ever.
You want to hear about a shady birthday? My birthday, September the 11th, man. And
Oh, wow.
but get this, and this is like, I mean, aside from the American stuff, guess
Mhm.
what day the war started in Chile, the country I'm from?
No way.
Guess what day the war started?
September 11th.
September the 11th. So
Wow.
my whole life, it's like I want to celebrate my birthday, but all the people in my country are like crying. There's like documentaries and like
Oh, man.
remembrance of the tortured and the
Yeah,
missing,
yeah.
and it's my birthday. I was like,
I know, right?
oh
Maybe a
man.
little worse than mine, yeah, for sure. I think you had a little bit worse than me then,
I,
right?
it's funny because then the American thing happened, and everyone's like, "Oh, that must really screw your birthday." It's like, "Oh, it's been screwed forever. Don't worry." Like,
I mean, I'm laughing, but no, I mean, that's terrible, man.
oh, it is what it is. You can't pick your birthday,
No.
right? At least I'll never forget. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, absolutely.
so you get back home to the east, and you're back in your roots. You're back in your hometown. What did you do for work? Was it easy to get back into work? I mean, you're now this is recession time.
Mhm.
It's a little bit tougher to find work. How'd it go there?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I think I took a different job because I couldn't find work right away. So
Hmm.
I took a different job. A lot of my family members are truck drivers. So
Hmm.
like they're in the moving business. So I had to move furniture with a couple of my uncles until I could get situated. But then I ended up finding a job at RKO Steel.
Hmm.
And I walked through the doors and there, lo and behold, there's another black man, Daryl Lucas, who's the foreman at this particular shop, right? And
Hmm.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, really? Yeah,
Good.
yeah, good. Yeah, I was like, great. I think I could stay here for a little bit. Let's just see how it
Hmm.
goes, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, nobody bothered me. I mean,
That's
they,
good.
yeah, nobody bothered me. I think they feel like they wanted to, but I was good. I came in there, like I said, confidence on high. I could pass. I just wasn't comfortable with the heavy plate gouging and all that stuff. But I just watched what the other guys did.
Hmm.
They showed me once, and I could do it after that, right?
Someone was just posted. We were just having a conversation with me and Stephanie Hoffman on Instagram about gouging because, man, I love gouging. It sounds stupid because it's so
Yeah.
loud and it's so
Hmm.
like you're gonna burn. Like you're gonna
Yeah.
burn no matter
Yeah.
what.
No matter
But
what.
I think it's an art form to do it nice, to rip off, find, follow that crack or remove
Yeah.
that piece with like
Yeah.
precision. It's like
Yeah.
a scalpel if you do it right.
It is. You're like,
And then
yeah.
people don't think that, but I know that it's a skill, man.
It definitely is a skill. It's like you're a surgeon almost when you can
Mm-hmm.
take it off, when you really get good. Like I try to teach people how to do it, and I'm like, you got to follow the line, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, what line are you talking about? And I'm just like, you got to see it, but it's there, and once you get rid of the line, it's gone. But
It's done.
it's done. But a lot of people, some people just can't grasp it. You know what I
No,
mean?
I've seen a lot of people not get it years
Yeah,
into the trades. Yeah.
years
Uh,
and years. I seen this
Yeah.
one guy 9 years into the trade, and I showed him how to gouge. He was gouging. I can't remember how he was doing it. He was looking behind or something, and he was like, "Where's the line?" And I was like, "Man, listen, turn it around and do it this way." And he seen it, and then I go back to my station. An hour later, look at him. He's back doing it the other way that he was just doing. So
All
it's
right. Well, whatever.
yeah. I mean, it's just sometimes you just don't grasp it, right? But yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they showed me, and like I said, I seen them do it once, and then I was
Mhm.
able to do it, right? But
So when you were in Ontario, you were at the shop. Your boss was a black man, and you had a really good multicultural mix on the floor. Now you're back in Nova Scotia, and your boss is a black man. Was it multicultural on the floor like in Ontario, or were you now looking at that same 3% representation? Like you were one of only a few, black or people of color on the floor, mainly white.
yeah, mainly white. It was me and Daryl in the whole building. That was it. There was a
Did you
few.
guys get any flack about that? Did the people on the floor ever, mention anything or do anything rank? Like, I mean, I had a noose hung in my work welding booth once
Oh
when I was
wow.
a young man, and I remember that really, really pissed me off. People were
Mhm.
like, "Are you scared?" I'm like, "I don't know if I'm scared as much as just like disgusted."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's
No,
like
that stuff.
I work with these people. They're supposed
Yeah,
to be my brothers and sisters
yeah,
that I work with, and
yeah.
you want to put a noose in my
Yes.
booth? Like, what the
Yeah,
hell is that?
yeah. It's not funny. It's not
No,
funny,
it's
and it's not a joke. No,
no.
I've been ridiculed. I've People have said little things, and like you said, they would hang the chain in like a noose, like the
Mhm.
crane chain. I've seen
Yeah.
that hanged in a noose, and I'd walking by, and I'm just like, I try not to let it bother me, but I'm just like, wow, really? I mean, this is all you got to, this is all you're gonna do, like
Yeah. You
to
don't got nothing
mess.
better than to
Yeah, you
just
have
work,
nothing
like
better to do work than to make a joke about something that's not funny at all, right?
yeah.
But no, they would say little things about Daryl, but no one ever said anything to him, because
He's the
he had
boss.
just, yeah, he's the boss. He worked his way up,
Mhm.
into that position, and they respected him in that sense. But yeah, I could see them taking little digs at me, and where you from, and you know,
And
like,
for you, that's got to be almost like waiting for that question. Where you from?
yeah,
From right
yeah,
here, man. From
I'm from
here.
right here. Oh, really? It's like you said, they just act like you came out of nowhere, or they don't know when they
Mhm.
really do know. They just choose not to uh, accept it
Di-
or whatever.
yeah, or digest that information.
Yeah, yeah. So,
So let's talk a little bit about, how I met you, through Divine, who I picked up her last name and her accent right away. She's from Ghana. I've been to
mhm.
Ghana a
Yeah,
few times. So she said she's
really?
gonna take me. Yeah, oh yeah, I worked in Africa. And so
Uh,
she said she was gonna take me to a Ghanese restaurant that her aunt runs in Halifax that she says is the bomb. And I said I'll be the judge of that because I know what authentic Ghanese food's supposed to taste
right.
like. And she said,
Absolutely.
"Oh no, it'll be perfect." But
Mhm.
Divine, she connected me to you, and she's a coordinator at the East Preston Empowerment Academy.
Yes,
And
sir.
what is the East Preston? And I'm going to talk to them about it. This is something I'm going to pursue. I want to get them on the show to talk about their school. But
Mhm.
how did you get involved with the school? What's the school in the community? Give me a little bit about what it is and how you work with it.
Okay, so when I came back from Ontario, I uh, I wanted to get my Red Seal, right? I
Hmm.
wanted to be certified. So I had enough hours and everything to do it. I reached out to Don Adams, who's on the Department of Labor. He's head of the apprentices. He he puts
apprenticeship guy. Yeah.
yeah, he's the apprenticeship guy. Get you in school and he gets you your hours. So he helped me put all my hours together, and so I went back for my third block in
Hmm.
school. So I went there, did that, and then got my red seal. So after that, Don came to me and he said, "I want you to be on this committee. We're starting a program, East Preston Empowerment Academy, and I want you to be on the board." So he's like, "You're the first black guy in the last 8 years to walk across the stage as a red seal." He said, "You're
Hmm.
the first guy in 8 years, the first black person to do it, right?" And he said, That's significant, and I want you on the part of my team." So that's how I got hooked up with the East Preston Empowerment Academy. I'm also from East Preston, you know,
Hmm.
so yeah, and so
It all fits.
it all fit together, right? So yeah,
And what
so
do they do at there at East Preston Academy? Is it all people of color? Is it for immigrants? Is it a college like for anybody? Like I know they have like Red Seal certifications for a whole bunch of different trades.
mhm,
Like I for so I'm pretty well connected and I know lots of what's going on in Canada. I
mhm.
had never heard of the East Preston
Yeah, it is fairly
Empowerment
it's
Academy.
it's fairly new, but they're starting to grow really big. I mean, they're doing a lot of stuff right now. I don't want to get into that, but it's gonna come.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it's just they basically help apprentices get certified, right? And it started out for people of color in the black community, but
Mm-hmm.
it's for anybody. Now it's for everybody. We don't
Mm-hmm.
discriminate. If you want to get your red seal or you want to be certified or you want to get into the trades, we'll help you get in. Like right now, I'm tutoring this guy. He's a sheet metal worker. I'm tutoring him to help pass his red seal exam, and he's a white guy,
Mm-hmm.
So we started out to help our own people, and that's our main focus really, is to help our own people. But we're people that we help everybody, because we want the same in return. So we're helping everybody. But basically we're getting people certified for the red seals, and it's not just in the trades. It's all over, all red seals, but we do focus a lot on the trades, right?
Yeah.
Carpentry, welding, plumbing, everything, right?
So they have their own teachers, their own training centers and everything?
Well, we're working on that. We have
Mm-hmm.
uh we have we have some uh we have a training center, yeah, that we will go in and do stuff. Not for the welding part now
Mm-hmm.
as so much. We have to like rent spots for right now, but it's in the works. But yeah, they have a big we have a big parcel of land. It's called the Akuma Center. They could tell you more about it than I could, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's gonna be a big. It's growing rapidly right now, and it's
Well, I love the idea. I love the initiative. It would be like in a perfect world, there would be a place for people to feel comfortable no matter what you are. I think some people are kind of maybe a little ignorant in the fact that they think that everyone's going to get along with everybody else all the time.
Mhm,
And they just, like we should just have one giant school that's good for, the LGBTQ, the
mhm,
people of color, women,
mhm,
everything.
mhm.
But that's not fair. You can't say that because you don't know people's story. You don't know if there's been abuse. You don't know if there's been trauma. You don't know where they come from. You don't know about their religion. You don't know about anything. So
Absolutely.
there needs to be places for people to be comfortable. So, we have Muslim schools, we have Christian schools, we have, Hindu schools. We should have, people of color schools, all women schools, if an all women welding academy. That would be
Absolutely.
wild.
That
Uh,
would be
uh,
wild.
a college for trades for the LGBTQ two plus community where they can go
Mhm.
and be comfortable and just learn how to weld, just learn how to carpentry, just learn how to electric. They don't got to worry about all this other crap because you don't learn until you're comfortable.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think that's what we're working for. We need to have a place for our people to come when
Hmm.
they need help. You know what I mean? Or to
Hmm.
feel comfortable like I did at
Yeah.
Samina when I was there. And it was a perfect learning environment, right? So that's basically what we want to create and what we're trying to create for them to be a support system, right? Because like I said, me being in working the trades in Nova Scotia, I can count on maybe one hand how many black people I've worked with, like
Hmm.
actually worked with in on the floor and across all kinds of companies.
Hmm.
Maybe right now the shipyard is where a lot of people are going, right?
Most
So
most of the work out there right now, yeah.
yeah, most of the work is going to the shipyard. So these other places is they're getting work too, but there's no people of color involved
Yeah.
there. There's
Now
none,
think
and it's
about this. How many women foremen have you had in your life?
zero.
Zero. 53% of Canada is women.
Yeah, that's
Zero.
crazy. Yeah,
Think about that. 53% of the country is women, and you've had zero female foremans. Now,
it
how
makes
many black
sense.
women foremans have you had? Oh,
Man, come
forget about it.
get
Right?
about
Like,
it.
forget about it. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
that's how far behind we are. We're
yeah,
hundreds of years behind. Like, we got to get on this and fix this. I'm
absolutely.
same for me. 30 years teaching. I've had maybe two or three people of color be bosses, if that, in 30 years, and
Yeah,
no women ever have I ever
no,
had a female boss in the trades. Never,
no,
not once.
no.
And so, like, how is that possible?
It doesn't make
No,
sense.
it
Something's
doesn't
not
make
adding up,
sense. Like the
right?
math ain't right. Like,
And there's a lot more women in the trade. Like I've worked with so many women in the trade. You know what I mean?
why
But
aren't
they're
they
not
climbing to the top?
exactly,
Yeah, because
exactly.
with the hierarchy, it's prejudice. It's still prejudice out there. Like, I mean,
It
we
is.
we can't just ignore it and be like, oh yeah, it's getting better. Well, it's not getting better fast enough. Like, this just should be a thing that we can say in our lifetimes that it's the past. Like, do you
Yeah.
really want to explain to your kids in 10 years when they start looking for work that it's not as easy for a black person to find a job? That's not a fun conversation to
No,
have.
it isn't.
I remember my parents giving me that talk, being like, you're an immigrant, we have to work on your accent. People are always like, oh, you speak great English. That's not an accident.
No, man, it's not an accident. And the
No,
same
my
thing was listen, I've had someone come to me and actually with the audacity to say, I told them where I was from, East Preston. They were like, why are you talking like that? I was like, excuse me, what? And they were like, yeah, you speak so well. I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, well, how can you say that to somebody, Like,
yeah, yeah.
and
No,
people get
it's
that all
it's
the
tough.
time,
Well,
you know?
and then the other thing on the other
I've
side of the
worked with
coin
them.
is when, like, you see, like, say you're telling some of your white friends or someone, the people at your workplace, your colleagues, who are Caucasian, and
Mhm.
you're saying something about, something being, these things being bad, or things trying to get worse, or trying to get training, or blah blah blah, and
Mhm.
they'll be like, I've never really noticed in my life. It's like, okay, do you think that if I'm having a bad day with white people, I'm going to go to a white person and complain?
No, come on, man. No, you're not.
That's not gonna go over well, you know what I
Mm-mm,
mean? And it's
mm-mm.
not like and it has nothing to do with, it's just about that comfort level. You're
That's it.
gonna wanna go talk to somebody that you're comfortable with. So, I will look for another male Latino
Yeah.
because we have a connection, and maybe I'll talk in my own language because I love speaking in my own native language, and I try to
Yes.
every chance I have.
Yes.
And then I can, have that complain. I can complain
You could.
comfortably, because every
Mhm.
human's allowed to complain, but you can't just complain to anybody. You got to complain to people you're comfortable with.
Absolutely. And that's a big thing. And don't make that mistake. I could make that mistake and do that, and it would come back on me,
Hmm.
because there's no loyalty there. It's just me. It's like Dad said, the lone wolf is easy prey, right? And I feel
Hmm.
that I get preyed on a lot. And listen, for anyone coming behind me that's going up by themselves and just wanting to take the trade in this province, they're gonna have a hard time. They might not finish. I know people that took the trade. Their dad took the trade. They're not even in the trade now. They're doing something else. They're just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. You have to be a strong-willed person. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I got that from my parents. You know what I mean? Not everybody has that in them.
No, no. Some
You
people
know?
don't have a support net at all, and they're just trying to do it on their own.
Yeah, and it's very, very difficult. I mean, it might be easy for someone to say, but I mean, like, think about it. You're one person, the color going into a building, and you're the only person of color in that whole building. You're gonna be, you know, sus, you're gonna be,
You're gonna stick out.
yeah, you're gonna stick out, and
Yeah,
people are gonna notice, and they're gonna say stuff. You know what I mean? And it
yeah,
just
yeah,
to mess with you, right?
yeah. And what you just brought up is so important in today's days. I literally have meetings about this every week. This conversation came up last week at a meeting I was at where I was talking about the pipeline of welders because so much money is being put into getting, young kids to sign up for welding. So much money is being put up by the government to get people into the welding trades and get them into the pipeline, the education pipeline for learning the trades.
Mhm.
But I don't feel that we're doing enough to keep people in the pipe. So like it's like if you envision this giant 24 or 36-inch pipe and
Mhm.
then 6 feet in, it's full of holes.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the pipeline we have right now. We
Mhm.
push a bunch of people in. So like teaching, I would have classes that would be almost 50% women. Like I
Mhm.
would be like 4 or 5 girls and 6 guys, and I'd be
Wow.
like, this is great. This is
Mhm.
great to see this. Or
Yeah.
I would have like we had a fresh immigration run from India. So I had like 2 classes full of these Indians and a couple Indian girls that were
Mhm.
taking these welding classes. I was like, awesome, this is the right thing.
Mhm.
But you know what? 5 years later, where are they? Like none of them, like
None of them.
less than 10% are still in
Wow.
the trades
Mhm.
because they get pushed out. They get
Yeah.
fed up with the racism. They get
Yeah.
fed up with the misogynist comments. They get fed of
Mhm.
one girl gets called Barbie at work, and one girl we
Mhm.
sent off to work term, and they made her clean the bathrooms. Like I
Wow.
was so mad. I was like, how is this today's world? Like,
Mhm.
where is this happening? I
Yeah.
keep even me as an immigrant, I'm shocked by. I thought we were past this.
Yeah.
Like
If you think it's bad, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad here. It just think about a young guy coming in, a white guy, young white guy coming in. If he doesn't know the right people, he might not even get. You know what I mean? They might try to
hmm
hold him down. So what do you think they're gonna do to me?
yeah,
You know what I mean? They're not gonna show me anything, or they're gonna show me very little, and keep. If I don't grasp it or go on beyond, go above
like
and beyond
immediately.
immediately, exactly,
hmm
you're gonna get fed up with it. I've seen it happen. So
Yeah, I have too. Yeah,
they put 20 welders, 20 black welders into the shipyards together. So I think that's a big move on the part of the shipyard because they partnered with EPEA and they
hmm
made that happen. So I think that's a step in the right direction.
a hundred percent.
Yeah.
100%. I was working for a large manufacturing company here in Canada, and this is in the early 2000s when the big Filipino migration came over, and we
Mhm.
brought over like hundreds of thousands of Filipinos into Canada, and we made the conscious effort to train. We brought in like I would say maybe a couple hundred Filipinos. This is a large company,
Mhm.
and we trained them to weld, and they were doing good. But then we found like the best ones of them and promoted them to shift supervisors, and
Mhm.
we let the Filipinos manage the Filipinos,
Right.
right?
And
And
how
we
did
let
that go?
awesome. It went awesome because
Yeah.
they could speak in their own language. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like as long as the guy
They're
I gotta
getting the
talk
work
to,
done.
your foreman
Yeah.
speaks good English enough for me to tell him what's going on, and then he's got a crew of 10, 15 Filipinos beneath him, and you guys all talk your own language, go
Yeah.
for it. I
Yeah.
don't care,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
and it's way more comfortable for them than instead of me trying to explain in English and them trying to explain back, and it's all broken and we're confused and you know what? I'll explain it to one guy, the one who
Yeah.
speaks the best English,
Mhm.
and then he'll explain it to the rest of you, and I'll just come back tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I mean? See you later.
Wow.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
We had a ton of success, and you know what? The Filipinos were so loyal because we did this to them that
Absolutely.
they forever like they're lifers now,
Forever.
man. And
Lifers.
they got
They'll never.
pensions, they got benefits, they moved their families over, they're bringing their cousins over
Mhm.
because they know that this company is going to treat them right, not just give them a job, but also give them the chance to move up, to become,
Exactly.
on a level of management, to become a foreman, a supervisor, and
Absolutely.
they get to even speak their own language. Same with the Muslims. We had a bunch of Muslims come over from Somali. So we set up a prayer corner for them because people
Mhm.
were like, where are these guys going to pray? They keep having to take breaks. They're praying on the floor. That's not safe. I'm like,
Mhm.
well, then let's set up a proper prayer corner. We got this giant building. You tell me we can't set up a 10 by
Wow,
10 square
Max.
somewhere. So we set them up a prayer corner for the Muslims. And man, then they're happy. Like, I mean,
They're
that's
happy.
all it takes.
Yeah,
Like,
they'll be loyal. It's
yeah.
all about respect and
hmm
actually really having respect for the people, and they will give you the utmost respect back. But I don't know why people don't value that.
Yeah.
It's like you
They just
said.
think the paycheck's enough. The paycheck's not
Yeah,
enough.
not enough, man. It's not
Yeah.
enough to encourage more. You know what I mean?
Well, especially in welding, people are always like, "Oh yeah, we can't retain any welders." When I hear of a company that loses a lot of welders, I think about how you run your company because, welders, we like we work hard and it's a tough job, and especially if you're a person of color or you're a woman or you're from a marginalized group, it's
Mhm.
going to be 10 times harder. So I'm not staying just for the check, man. I can
No,
make this check anywhere else. Like I can
exactly.
go anywhere and make this check as a welder.
Mhm.
If you want me to be with your company, it's got to be for a reason past the check.
Exactly. That's at where I'm at in my career right now.
Hmm.
I'm leaning towards uh starting my own little business slash school, right?
Hmm.
Where I can take apprentices in and show them things that they're not getting shown on the floor at work. So when they
Hmm.
can go back to work, they know something new and they'll be like, oh, how do you? And
Hmm.
that will maybe hopefully help them advance a little bit. And if
Yeah.
not, at least they know how to do things,
Yeah,
right?
they're better for themselves anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, pass a stainless steel pipe test. Well, you're not going to get that in school. I mean, at
No,
work,
and that's a
unless
tough
you're working on
test.
it. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's what I want to do to try to help these guys out to make them better, so they can
Awesome, man.
yeah.
Well,
So
well, we're at the end of the interview here, man. I can literally, I think I could sit and talk to you. I don't know if you like drinking beer or not, but someday I feel like we need to have a beer or two.
yeah, man, we need to have I've been drinking this Erdinger. You ever drink them?
Yes, I have. They're
Yeah,
quite
so
good. Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to have a couple when I see you.
Yeah, and hopefully it's summertime and we can sit on a deck by the ocean, maybe eat some seafood because I don't get any of that out here in the prairies, man.
Oh man, we definitely can do that. There's a ton of seafood around.
Well, last time I was there, I went to this awesome little town called Alma, and they were so good. But
Mm.
anyways, um, to end the show, I would love it if you could give, anybody who's listening to this podcast, whether they're a person of color or not, what would be a good piece of advice to get them to say overcome some of the obstacles they might face in their path into welding. Something that maybe you experienced that you can now give advice to some young person looking to get into the trades.
Well, I would tell them to just learn as much as they can. Like, pay attention to these journey people and learn as much as you can from them. Even if you're not directly working with them, just try to take as much as you can from them and incorporate it in what you're doing. And don't give up, you know, because I've seen it too many times that people give up. It gets hard, but you have to persevere. You have to persevere. You have to don't give up, and just work hard, learn your craft, learn your trade. You're gonna be better off for it because they'll never be able to take that from you. So get your
It's your own
skills.
legacy. It's your own legacy you're creating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's basically what I'm saying. It's your legacy. So yeah, hone it, take a hold of it. And from my experience, when people see you doing that, they tend to want to show you more, right? When they take digs at you and you don't let it phase you and you keep going and going, then they tend to show you more. I know it's weird, but
Hmm.
that's from my experience, that's what I got from them.
No, and I get you. There's a weird tough love that happens in industry that
Mhm.
it's almost like a test. It's like a test every day to see if you deserve to
Yeah,
be there. But then some of these tough guys, they end up being your best friends later on down the road.
yeah,
Like you just
yeah.
don't expect it. It's like, I
You,
thought you hated me. And they're like, yeah, I did. But
yeah, you
you
know,
grew on me.
because someone probably did that to them. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
And yeah, it's a tough trade. I mean, anything's really tough, but I mean, if you really want it, you can have it. You put your mind to it, you can accomplish it,
All
right?
right, Frederick. This has been a super fun podcast. I'm sure all the people listening are going to appreciate this. And my props to the African and Black and Caribbean communities that are working hard and supporting each other because I know it can be very tough. And I love hearing about these initiatives and the these opportunities that are happening. And let's do what we can to push that agenda forward because it helps everybody. It helps all of Canada.
Absolutely. There's more diversity in the workplace is it's better for everybody. You know,
Mhm.
it's more comfortable. It's great. Well, thank you so much, Max, for having me on and reaching out to me to get me to do this podcast and this story. I really appreciate it. It's actually something I've been wanting to do. So this is a little bit of a weight lifted off me, and I really appreciate you reaching out to me. I really needed this. I
Good.
feel really good about it.
Good. I'm glad, man. I'm glad. And it's a two-way partnership, and I'm sure the fans are going to love it too. So, it's been
Mhm.
great. Is there any shout outs you want to send out to anybody that's going to be listening? This is your chance now.
Um, well, I'm
I
just
mean,
gonna shout out my whole community, the community of
mm,
Preston, East and North, Nova Scotia as a whole, Halifax, Dartmouth, the whole province. Just yeah, we just need to stick together. I mean, we need to do better. You know, we need to do better as a group. Let's
mhm,
come together and not, you know, be apart so much. You know,
yeah.
give people a chance. You know, to prove
Hmm.
themselves. Right. So
Absolutely. That's great. I'm
yeah,
glad you did that. Good for you, buddy. All right.
and
Well, we'll be.
EPA.
Yeah,
Shout
the
out to
EPA.
EPA, right? CWB as well. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
CWB,
man.
Matt, all you guys. Thank you very much.
All right, man. And for all the people that have been listening, thank you very much for tuning in. Always great to do these shows. We'll be back in a week as always. And, make sure you download, share, and like all these podcasts. And also, if you ever want to see the videos, we're on YouTube as well. So we'll catch you soon and take care.
We hope you enjoyed the show.